represent my life and my music in that way.
Okay, so let's talk about life and unlife.
Okay.
Term I came across on TikTok, and I was like, I'm gonna start using that.
Okay.
So, what is there a pro of struggling with suicidal ideations?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the pro and what's the con?
The pro is you become more sensitive to what other people are going through. You start to wonder if other people are going through that, and you become more cautious about how you communicate with others, how you relate to others. You're more thoughtful because you're thinking so much anyway.
Would you say you weren't as thoughtful as a person until you had that experience?
No, but I think that until I had that experience, actually, yeah, I think until I had experience, I wasn't even aware of the idea of thoughtfulness or selfishness or selflessness. I wasn't aware of any of these concepts because I didn't it took something to cause me to reflect. And that just happened to be that. But to be honest, I've always, as far back as I can remember, as far as I think my, memories for it as a child, I've always felt, if not suicidal, unhappy.
Okay.
And
let's start with unhappy then.
Yeah.
Before the jumping into the
Sure.
other shit. Describe what unhappiness is.
It was just a general feeling about myself as I related to my family, as I related to people in school, as I related to myself.
Yeah.
There was something that I felt intrinsically that was different or odd about me.
Yeah.
And I know nowadays everybody says they're weird, and I don't know. Maybe we all are, but I know when I was a child, I thought I was really weird.
Yeah.
And I just remember the things that how I used to entertain myself sometimes, even when I would be at school. I remember one time I would sit by myself, and I was supposed to be doing a math lesson by myself, and I had these quarters, a pile of quarters. I don't know why I had so many quarters. I mean, you're 6. Kids do weird shit. And I had a pile of quarters in my pocket. And mind you, I'm by myself. And I would just, every 5 seconds, I would tip the quarters out. And then I would just pile them up and put them back in my pocket. I did it for like 15, 20 minutes or so. Until my teacher called me and she was like, stop. But I was like, I look back on it like, what are you doing? And now if I were to have a child and that child would do that, I'd be like, what's up with the quarters, bro? Like, you gonna talk about the quarters? Like, understanding that for some reason this child is fascinated instead of thinking something's wrong with this child.
That sounds like a replacement for a fidget.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I always just had this feeling that there was something off. I didn't relate as well to my family as my siblings did.
How many siblings do you have?
I have 3.
Okay.
Yeah, a brother and 2 sisters. And so I didn't relate well to my family. I was the child that didn't talk much, and they were the kids that talked a lot and entertained everybody, and I was just sitting off by myself.
Would talking too much seem exhausting to you as a child?
I think so. It's like, it's not that I don't like to talk, but I'm it's like you have to talk about something that is so fascinating to me in order to get me talking. Yeah. Otherwise, no. No. Yeah. So, and that followed me pretty much for the rest of my life up until I was 18 when I was finally diagnosed with major depressive disorder. What
was that? Did something lead up to you getting diagnosed, or did you feel it was time?
I had started to become more seriously suicidal. I started to exhibit suicidal tendencies when I was 15, but I don't think anybody was aware.
Yeah.
But it became apparent when I was 18. I went away to college.
Before that, you said lightly. So there were steps towards it. Do you remember what a couple of those experiences were like for you? Not knowing something's wrong, but being at the point where it's like, nah, fuck this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was gradual. It was definitely just, I started having issues with my weight. I started experiencing just like uncomfortable feelings about my sexuality. Just a lot of different things that I didn't feel like, or I felt very consciously that I was like, this is something I can't even talk about. And so by the time I went away to college, I was in a lot of ways pretty isolated. And then it just started manifesting into these really unhealthy and kind of scary behaviors, some violent behaviors. And just it started growing into like just a consistent habit of self-harm, which carried on for about 5-6 years.
The first experience of self-harm, is that terrifying for someone in your position, or do you, I've heard people say you just want to feel something.
Wow, honestly, the scary part, the thing that's actually terrifying is how not terrifying it was. I wasn't afraid of it.
Yeah.
It was just like, this is what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm gonna do. And then sometimes it wasn't even a thought. It was more of a response. Sometimes I would just be emotionally unbalanced, and that would just be the response. It wasn't even something that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and I've done that. I've sat down and thought pros and cons, weighed it out, written a letter. But most of the time, or in the earlier stages of it, it was very impulsive. It was very just reactionary. It was just, one of them things that people would say, oh, you're just doing it to get attention. In reality, I couldn't tell you if that was true or not. All I know is that in that moment, that was what I felt.
You were dedicated to that thought. Yeah. For those people that have had the mitigated gall to say you're doing it for attention, what do you say to someone after coming out from that space?
I would say that even if that were true, it doesn't really matter. Because what's mattering is people who are feeling good or who are healthy are not doing that.
Yeah.
So if somebody is doing that, something is wrong, and you have to take it seriously. Now, granted, I understand where people come from in the sense that they feel manipulated by that behavior, and it can be manipulative. But you also have to understand normal people or healthy people don't do that. Regardless of what is motivating them to, they don't do it. They need help. Regardless, they still need help.
Yeah.
And so the question would be, how dedicated are you to this person? Are you willing to help them? Or do you want to just give it space? But you have to make up your mind. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I would encourage people who are involved with, have relationships with people who have mental health issues, is that you have to make a decision with yourself how much you love this person and how much you're willing to give to this person. But if it's hurting you, please make the decision to leave. But don't stay and then tell them that they're manipulating you. That's not gonna help, because half the time, even if that's the case, they still need treatment. They need someone that's actually going to medically help them.
They need a different kind of support.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it may not be what you can offer, and that's okay. But I understand also there's layers to it, and you know, the abuse is real, and like people do get gaslit into unhealthy relationships where somebody is abusive and using their mental illness as an excuse to terrorize people. That's never okay. But I think that it's important for us to remember that at the end of the day, there's still a sickness, you know?
Yeah.
So.
What advice would you give to someone trying to make an ideal environment for someone who struggles with that?
With, on the struggles with mental health, or somebody who's struggling with helping someone?
Helping someone who is suffering from suicidal ideations.
I think that there needs to be a support system for, everybody involved. I think
so. Not just the people supporting the person, but there needs to be support for the support.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There has to be reinforcements, because 1, 2, or 3 people can't do it by themselves. And so that's why it's so important for us to have a strong community that deals with these issues. Because if we're just relying on our interpersonal relationships to help us when we're depressed, it's going to exhaust everybody. Because let's be real, most people are not trained to deal with these type of situations. They have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
And we expect so much out of everybody when everybody is like, nobody knows. Even the people who are suffering from the illness don't know. Yeah. And the people who are trying to support those who are suffering don't know either. And so if we don't have a strong support system within the community, then that ultimately leads to more, issues where people are just draining themselves and killing themselves because they're not able to deal with the situations. So that's why we need to have affordable therapy. I think that we should construct a culture where we are able to provide therapy based on income and not just limiting people's access just because they can't afford it, because maybe they're not in a position to really help themselves because of what they're going through. So if you can help them get through it, then maybe they'll, be able to be more, involved in, or I guess more, be able to reach their potential, whatever that potential may be. Yeah.
Or be more inclined to step towards getting the help that they need.
Yes, exactly. And I think we also treat therapy and yoga as like, oh, let's make you a better person to produce for the society. It's not in any way concerned about making you healthier and just creating a happier space for people. It's like, oh, let's make you better so you can start earning more. Let's make you better so you can start that business, or let's make you better so that you can. It's like, whatever happiness is for you, find it. I don't give a fuck if it's under a bridge. I don't give a fuck if it's with $1 million. I don't give a fuck if it's with 5. I just want to make sure that you are happy with yourself. Yeah. So that you can enjoy whatever life you have in front of you.
Or what's left of you.
Yes, because this shit goes. We don't. If anything, if the pandemic should have taught us anything, is that we could go at any second. There's so many people that were with us 2 years ago that are gone, that we probably didn't even expect to go.
Whether it's passing away or they're just out of your life.
They're just out of your life. So it's just like, it sucks that we have been conditioned to view our lives based off of what we will get to experience if we get a good job. We can't enjoy happiness until we reach that point. So we're spending every fucking day being miserable because we're not there. And that should be the opposite. We should be teaching each other and having a society that promotes people being happy wherever they are. It's just it's clear to me that this society doesn't care about that, and they want to just create more cogs in the machine. So it's almost very radical to even consider taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's not what this society is designed for. We don't give a fuck if you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, it's about how well are you going to be to suit me. You know?
And how long can you fit here before we have to replace you with
right.
someone else?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When it's come to